easy go.
Welcome to the Light Skin Book Reviews, where three light skins review books. Today we're reviewing Ethen from a novel about a crippled man who has an interesting backstory to his crippleism. So we're gonna review it, all the meanings, symbolisms, themes, plots, all that juicy business here in the Light Skin Podcast. We're gonna talk about the thoughts of our novels, of the novel, each other's opinions of the novel. Starting off with Sierra Henley.
Okay, so my thoughts about Ethen From was that it was a really interesting book, and it was also suspenseful because you didn't really know how Ethen would handle the situation of him falling for Maddie, as well as also being married to Xena. It was crazy to me how Ethen fell for Maddie, knowing that they were cousins, but also Ethen and Xena were cousins, so I guess it was like normal or something. But yeah, it was interesting to see how he would handle it.
Alright, now we're going to Loriana.
My initial thoughts on the novel was that it was very interesting. I just think that this could have been all avoided if it wasn't for Ethan's feelings for catching feelings way too fast with Maddie. But I did think the novel was very good. I wish he just would have explained it more in depth.
Alright, me, I think the novel was a pretty good novel. The imagery of the whole story, how much detail they put into the characters, the settings and stuff. I enjoyed that very much. The literature of the actual novel was very complex, which made it difficult to read, but it was fun to read. That made it more fun to read. I liked a lot of the, like I said, the imagery of the story, giving us characterization of each character, letting us see into their feelings, how they feel emotionally, physically, and all that stuff. Emotionally, the plot was pretty good. It was a thoroughly enjoyable story.
Yeah, the amount of detail that it gave us really helped us picture everything more vividly, and the characterization helped us picture the characters and the settings and everything else more clear.
Personally, I would rate the novel a 3.5 out of 5-star rating. I feel like when it came to Xena being added into the story, it's kind of what threw me back because of how terrible of a character she was. But it's still a great book, and I would recommend you read it.
I'd agree with Loriana. 3.5 is a pretty good rating for the book. I'm new to that kind of story, so I can't really make a good opinion on it. Probably gonna have to read a couple more like that, but I enjoyed the book. It was an interesting story.
Yeah, I feel like it was maybe a 4 stars out of 5 stars. It was difficult to read because of how they talked back then and how the author wrote the story, but the plot was good and I really liked just the characters.
When it comes to the setting in the novel, you can see that the church really initiated everything. That's where you get to find out that Maddie and Ethen had feelings for each other. In the Frome house is where you actually get to see how their feelings take place somewhere else and how intimate it gets and how really physical it gets to the point where they love each other.
The characters are characterized very differently. Maddie was characterized as a very young, attractive, energetic young woman. Ethen was attracted to her because she appreciates the small things just as much as he does. And Ethen was described as crippled, and he was just very unhappy until he got with Maddie, but he was still unhappy. She just made him come out his shell a little bit. Xena was described as old, ungrateful, just rude, and I feel like that was one of the reasons why Ethen had gone with Maddie, because of how different they were.
We're going to talk about the figurative language of the story. The story used a lot of figurative language, which I like very much because it helped visualize a lot of the details that they wanted us to think of. One line in particular really caught my eye, where they were describing the setting as, quote, "Darkness comes drowning down like a black veil from a heavy hemlock bow," end quote. Which, using the describing darkness as black veil, giving black veils are used in like funerals, dark, gloomy areas, and stuff like that. So it's really showing how sad and cold, dark, and just like the tone just feeling low and heavy for the setting. Really helped us like visualize everything.
The plot of Ethan Frome ended up being at the end of the story. He realized that he couldn't have Maddie or Zena. He couldn't have Maddie because he didn't want to have to deal with the guilt of hurting her from the accident. And he didn't have Zena anymore because she was already so hurt from him being with her cousin.
I'm gonna talk about some of the symbolisms I found in the story. One in particular I liked was when Ethan and Maddie were together and they were having their alone time for a good minute. And Ethan was really hoping for something to happen during that time. And he didn't really do a lot. He was sniffing her cloth that she was knitting and stuff, and being weird. But as soon as like their time was kind of up and he walked out and grabbed the doorknob, he just remembered, yo, I didn't really do anything. I didn't even touch her hand when I was supposed to. Bruh. So he just felt bad and kind of dumb for not doing anything with Maddie when he had the time to. So it kind of helped the plot a little, push it forward, because then it meant that they would have to meet up again, which gives them more time and gives him more time to catch feelings towards Maddie, and what leads to the accident and all of that stuff.
So we had asked you guys to pick out a question for us to answer on our podcast, and one of the questions was a discussion of how the novel connects with other literature and real life struggles or issues. So I'm gonna have Lewis say what he thinks about that question.
To answer your question, Lil Capsy, the Rapsy, the way I would compare the real world to the story would be a lot of men are not happy with their marriages and stuff these days. So showing how Zena treated Ethan in the story, and how he found a new woman who could make up for what his wife was doing to him. It kind of relates sort of how the unhappy marriages and how you can find someone who actually makes you happy. It's better to go with what makes you happy than to struggle, have different things like that, issues. So I think they would compare pretty well.
Okay, to answer your question in my words at Capsy the Rapsy, another way that this can relate to real world situations is that Zena, she was very ungrateful and very rude in a relationship, and that also happens in real life situations because a lot of times the women, they get upset with the man over time, and I guess it's because of boredom or just the man being the man.
I agree with both Lewis and Sierra. I feel like those are the two main struggles that continue to happen in today's world and the real world. You can see how women constantly get cheated on by men in relationships, and you can also see how ungrateful women are in marriages.
We actually have a guest coming in, one of them. So
hey guys, he's back with another channel. Another channel of what's it?
Light skin reviews.
The light skin review over here. We're gonna be talking about Ethen Frome, and we're gonna talk about details and everything.
So what do you think about the book?
I thought it was pretty boring, to be honest. Not much excitement about it. It was kind of doo-doo.
And that's okay. Everybody has their opinions.
So what do you think about the figurative language and the symbolism of the story?
Right. All right. Cut.
We actually have another guest, Mr. Adam Capps. What's your thoughts on the book?
I think it's an interesting read. It is difficult, I think, for a lot of students to get behind it because Wharton puts the characters through such struggles, and it's hard to see if they ever really learn anything from it. I think from that, though, we can learn something, right? As the reader, we can learn the importance that poverty has on people, and not just in literature, but definitely in the real world. But I've always loved the book. I read it in high school, and There's a reason I still read it to this day. There's something about the setting that I really like, and I don't know. It's a comfortable read to me. I like it.
Thank you to Mr. Katz for giving us his opinion and discussing the book with us. We're gonna go back to our Twitter page and see.
If you have any other questions, please tweet them down in our Twitter.
Make sure you subscribe and like and send our podcast to your friends so they can all watch and listen.
Share it to everybody.
See you later. Every Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Till next time.
Put it like this to your phone, and you know,
Cut it.
and you edit it.
Cut
It's
it.
right here.
Got it.
Okay, go. Hurry up! This lunch is making me nauseous.
No, you should.
All right. Welcome to the Light Skin Book Review.
Start over. Cause I was literally like this.
And fix your posture.
Me
please.
personally, I would give the. Me personally.
But he was still very unhappy because stop.
That name was not crippled.
It's crippled, not disabled. Those are two different things.
Are characterized very differently. Maddie was characterized.
Oh my god.
Stop! What
The
am I
phone came
doing?